Summary of our week there was pretty amazing and life-changing for some of us. So this is our team: Nathan, Dalton, Bradley, myself, Emily, Mike, Kendra, Catherine, and also Jeremiah, of course. And we're going to take just a little bit of time to share something that it changed us, something we will remember forever. And we're just going to start with the kids.
Before Nathan. Come on, Tina.
When I heard we were going to go do a mission trip in South Dakota, I was like, oh, I'm not ready. And when I get there, and we started teaching the kids, my partner taught them a little bit. And like the last day, I was like, I want to teach them today. And she's like, okay. I'm like, and when I saw their smiles on the girls in the group, and on their faces, and when they were in my group, it filled my heart with joy. And to see them learning about Christ, and yeah.
Whenever I went to the Diamond Willow trip, we first got our groups. And I saw my group, and I figured, okay, this might have been easy because they were all first and second graders. And so we were doing all the lessons, and when it came to the fingernail painting and the face painting, there was a little girl named Raven that came up to me and asked if she could paint my nails. And so I said, sure. And so then over the week, we had just connected really well. She wasn't in my group, but she was probably one of the girls that I was hanging out with the most. And she was probably living in one of the healthiest homes at the reservation, but even seeing her house as being one of the best, she still had very little compared to everyone else. And it just made me realize how little these girls had.
Hello. Whenever they showed the pictures of the water out there in the Missouri River and everything, that water is a lot deeper than what it looks. Especially if you go out 20, 30, 40, something like that. Like, whenever they were showing the pictures, that's whenever we were up in the shallows stuff, and it was just like to our bellies and everything. And these girls, they really loved to play chicken. And then they would want to play chicken. The only time they ever wanted to play chicken was out in the deep waters. Well, since we were taller than all of them, they would get on our shoulders, and we'd be about chin high out there in the waters and everything. And they would be just having a blast. But whenever this one girl that was there, I don't remember her name or anything, but I don't think she was even from my group, actually. She was sitting there saying, she's like, please don't let go, please don't let go. And then she would just sit there, and then we would get knocked over by somebody else playing chicken, and she was really literate. She wouldn't let go, and she just about drowned you. Whenever you go to the reservation, there isn't a very big male influence there. All the guys that are there, most of them aren't being actual dads. They're doing other things. But whenever they see us boys here that are actually caring about them and they want to be around them, it's really special.
Going into the trip, I was, to be honest, a bit nervous. Jeremiah said he prepared for spiritual exhaustion, but he seemed to forget about physical and mental exhaustion. All week you had at least one little girl on your back or in your arms at all times. Not to mention how as soon as you got in the river, every little girl wanted to get on your shoulders and do some chicken fighting. And let me tell you, no one got out of that one without being sore the next day. Every night you were so excited to get some sleep, but in the back of your mind you knew that you only were one day closer to having to let them go. I thank God for all the time I got with them, and I really hope we can go back next year.
So there was this girl in my group, and her name was Caitlin, and she was one of the girls that I connected with that week. Personally, I struggle a little bit with showing Christ through me, but when Caitlin was around, it was so obvious. She was happy all the time, and she had a bubbly personality. Everyone could see that. And in worship, these are for little girls, and so there's songs that you get up and you sing to, and you do little movements and things. But Caitlin worshipped in her own way. She sat, and she would close her eyes, and she'd sometimes sway back and forth. And I thought that was really cool. And one thing that really stood out to me is that she had a servant's heart. She, anywhere we went, she wanted to carry my bag or my Bible or anything that I had in my hands. She wanted that. She wanted to help me out, and she wanted to help all the other girls too. But she could lead them. She liked answering the questions to all of the lessons that we gave, and she just stood out to me this week.
I spent time with a group of beautiful girls from 2nd grade to 4th grade. They were a little shy at first, but in no time were opening up about everyday things to their heartbreaking stories. It was not unusual for them to hold our hands, want hugs, and piggyback rides. We were able to give them our undivided attention and share Jesus with them. Our lessons focused on how Jesus and God always keep their promise. They were especially eager to listen during our last lesson from Luke 14. Jesus used the story of the feast as an invitation to be in God's family. Diamond Willow is sharing the hope of Jesus with the Dakota people, and it was amazing to be a part of that.
Hello. I'm back. You guys have heard some really cool stories from a lot of these guys. And I would love to be able to spend a lot of time to tell you some really funny stories, but I want to focus on something a little bit different. For those of you that have never been on an Indian reservation, Native American reservation, or maybe you've driven by one or just kind of through one, you don't typically see the level of poverty that is there until you actually get really into the reservation. To just give you an instance of this, there's a funny story with Nathan and I. I'm not going to tell the funny story right now, but if you want to know about it, I'll tell you later. But as we're walking around recruiting, essentially that's what you do, is you go throughout the community and you recruit these young girls and or boys, depending upon who the program is designed for that week, to come out. Nathan and I were walking around passing out flyers, and there were a few homes, one in particular, that Nathan looked at me and said, I don't know if we should go to this house. And I reassured him. I said, it's cool, I'm with you, I'm not going to let anything happen to you. But I want you to try to get a mental image in your mind, if you can, of what it must have looked like to put that level of concern into one of our children, with sponsors, with everybody else around. It is an incredible level of poverty, and it breaks your heart. And I had a lot of great experiences I would love to tell you about, but what I really want to tell you about right now, the young ladies up here, Emily, and I just almost forgot your name, Kathy. They're very, very respectful and very disciplined. And I don't know, for those of you that have teenage boys, you know they're a little bit more rambunctious. So it was a little interesting, but, Bradley's kind of a goof, a little bit like I am. And Dalton is kind of sullen, a little bit like his dad. But it's awesome. It was awesome to watch, especially these two young men, and also Nathan as well, interact with these children. Bradley had probably one of the most incredible moments while he was there. He spoke a little bit about this girl, Raven. I got to witness some of that, and it was amazing. Nathan, doing what he always does, and it's bringing his joy to these kids. And just seeing Dalton, seeing him thaw just a little bit, and having a lot of fun with these kids. I just want to tell you how proud I am of all these young people, especially these boys that took it serious and understood why we were there, especially as the week progressed. And the last thing I want to share with you really quickly, we were maybe the third or fourth day, I forget which, we were having a conversation, and no, not the cockroach, but we're having a conversation and about how next year we'd probably go to CIY, and then the next year after that we'd go back on a mission trip. And I don't know if it was Dalton or Bradley or Nathan, but one of them spoke up first. Was it you? I think you all said it at the same time. They didn't want to go to CIY. They didn't want to go to have this great fun time for themselves next year. They wanted to go back to Diamond Willow. To them, it was so much more important to serve and to be with these kids than it was to go on this whatever trip for themselves. I mean, CIY is great, and it feeds our children, and it's a wonderful spiritual adventure for them. But the Diamond Willow mission trip was a terrific experience for them to feed other people. And I just wanted to let you know that. I'm very proud of all of them.
One of my favorite parts from this trip was that Jeremiah and I went to Diamond Willow last year, right before we moved here. And on the day that the girls came on the van, a few of the girls ran up to us, and Elsie, and honestly I had forgotten her name, but Elsie ran up to me and she gave me a big hug and she said, "Kendra!" And that just showed me how important this week was to these girls, and all of us. I'm sure that you can tell from everyone's testimony that they had a life-changing week, but the reality is that we were there for the girls, and I think that we changed their lives more than we even know. And something that I really enjoyed as a sponsor on this trip was seeing all of these students step out of their comfort zone. Going into this trip, we said, this is going to be a trip that requires a lot of spiritual maturity. You're going to be asked to teach and lead these girls, and you're going to be responsible for them. And that's a lot on your shoulders. And I think some of them were kind of intimidated going into that. But they did an amazing job, and for some of them it took a day or two to get out of their comfort zone, but each of them did, and we couldn't be more proud of this team. So with that, we're going to go ahead and turn over for the song service, and we're going to go next door, and the middle schoolers are going to come over here and get ready to share their experience with you. Thank you very much.